online reading Srila Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam. So let me share the screen and then we'll get going here. Okay, PrabhupadaBooks.com. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 5th chapter, verses 12. We're going to start from verse 12. So, Ishan Prabhu, why don't you start off, Prabhu? And I'll go second, and Mohit Prabhu will go third. Is that okay?
Okay.
Sorry,
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, the translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're reading from the unchanged version, unedited. First canto, chapter 5, text number 12. Naishkarmyam api achukta bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanam alam niranjanam kuta puna shashvad abhadram ishvare na charpitam karma yadapi akaranam. Naishkarmyam, self-realization, being freed from the reactions of fruitive work. Api, in spite of. Achyuta, the infallible Lord. Bhava, conception. Varjitam, devoid of. Na, does not. Shobhate, look well. Jnanam, transcendental knowledge. Alam, by and by. Niranjanam, free from designations. Kuta, where is. Puna, again. Shashvat, always. Vajram, uncongenial. Ishware, unto the Lord. Na, not. Cha, and. Arpitam, offered. Karma, fruitive work. Yat api, what is. Akaranam, not fruitive. It's just one word. Srila Prabhupada very, very much wanted us to follow this procedure. He was very, very proud of having the text in this way, with the original Sanskrit, the transliteration, and the word for word. And he wanted that very much. So that for that reason I'm doing.
Jai.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Knowledge of self-realization. Even though freed from all material affinity, it does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible, God. What then is the use of fruitive activities, which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature, if they're not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? Purport by Srila Prabhupada, as referred to above. Not only ordinary literatures devoid of the transcendental glorification of the Lord are condemned, but also Vedic literature and speculation on the subject of impersonal Brahman, when they're devoid of devotional service. When speculation on the impersonal Brahman is condemned on the above ground, then what to speak of ordinary fruitive work, which is not meant to fulfill the aim of devotional service? Such speculative knowledge and fruitive work cannot lead one to the goal of perfection. Fruitive work, in which almost all people in general are engaged, is always painful, either in the beginning or at the end. It can only be fruitful when made subservient to the devotional service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita also, it is confirmed that the result of such fruitive work may be offered for the service of the Lord. Otherwise, it leads to material bondage. The bona fide enjoyer of the fruitive work is the personality of Godhead, and thus, when it is engaged for the sense gratification of living beings, it becomes an acute source of trouble. So, what are we discussing here? The goal of life is love of Krishna. Almost all religious activity, not only we find it in other religions, people are praying to God, they're approaching God, but they want something. They want money, or they're in distress and they want that material distress, they want that solved. They have some, but the only thing that can get a person out of this material world of birth and death is love of God, love of Krishna. Because when there is an absence of pure love of Krishna, love, what does love mean? Simply seeking the happiness of Krishna. If one approaches God in prayer, in meditation, in any way, and they want something in return, it's disguised as love, but it's business. That I will worship you if you give me this or that to enhance my material life. Even a pure devotee doesn't want any spiritual benefit. There are 4 kinds of liberation: spiritual, to live on the same planet as the Lord, to have the same bodily features as the Lord, the opulences of a pure devotee doesn't even want that. He says, birth after birth, all I want, you can keep me in this world. You can put me in heaven or you can put me in hell. All I want is to feel that I'm your servant and to be engaged in that way. This is how Lord Chaitanya's prayer for us, to guide us. So this verse and this purport, knowledge or self-realization, even if one becomes free of all material affinity, he becomes liberated from all material desire. But if it's devoid of this love of Krishna, it will not free one from the cycle of birth and death. There are different verses in Srimad Bhagavatam that those who come to this point of mukti, of merging into the Brahman effulgence, they cannot remain there because the material desire is still in the heart in a very hidden way. And that will force one to return again to the material world. The only thing that enables one to enter back into the spiritual world is love of God, love of Krishna, with no desire for anything in return.
Mm.
That is the, and therefore Narada Muni is talking with Srila Vyasadeva, who has written all these Vedic literatures, and saying, you have given so many of these Vedic literatures, but almost all of it is how to become materially happy through some spiritual process. And that is in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that this worship of demigods and things of that nature is all for less intelligent, because no matter how successful one becomes, it's only temporary. It vanishes very, very quickly. Even going to the higher planets, when it's like a bank account, pious credit, and when it's used up, then one has to again come down to the material world. So this is what is being explained here by Srila Prabhupada and by Narada Muni, that the bona fide enjoyer of our fruit, so we can do our fruitive work. We have to do so many things just because we live in this material world. We have family, we have responsibilities, we have duties. But here it is said that in the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the result of such fruitive work might be offered for the service of the Lord. Otherwise, it leads to material bondage. So, in our daily activities, there are a group of philosophers who want to stop all activity so that they won't have a bondage. But it's impossible to stop all activity. So, but here the solution is given by Krishna that everything you do can be done as an offering to me. Everything, every activity, every responsibility. However, there's the danger not simply to rubber stamp it as devotional service, but to do it in the spirit of devotion. And that's when it is engaged for sense gratification, Srila Prabhupada writes, it becomes an acute source of trouble. Acute source of trouble is repetition in the cycle of birth and death. So we're being given this information. At least let us try to understand it very carefully, and then how to cultivate that frame of mind of devotion. That is what we're learning under the guidance of Krishna's pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada.
So a person engaged in the ordinary course of action in their material life, if he knows that the ultimate goal is to satisfy the pure devotee Krishna, or Srila Prabhupada through the medium of Srila Prabhupada to carry out his order, follow the regulated principles, is he or she directly participating in Krishna consciousness, pure devotional service? Or is it the consciousness and the understanding which gives it that, it's a technical question, you know what I'm saying? One, does the understanding matter that I'm doing this, but if someone is just doing it like a owner's manual, it's beneficial, but does it lead to that understanding? Okay. They give up the sense gratification tendency.
So, following instructions, being obedient is progressive. We were reading an earlier verse in this chapter where in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he said, just looking for that. Or maybe it was in the last chapter. But Srila Prabhupada was saying that there are, if you recall, so many things, deity worship, following the vows, etc. They're always helpful, Srila Prabhupada. They're helpful. So whatever advancement we can make, whatever degree we can be obedient and try to follow, is all purifying. So we want to purify our intelligence so that we can begin to understand that what is wanted from us is love. If we look in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 2, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada said that actually Krishna accepts, this is a quote directly, Krishna accepts only the love with which things are offered to him. Now, we may not be able to be spontaneously on this platform, but at least let us recognize that this is the goal and that our sincerity is very, very important. And that how does one develop love? One develops love by loving. There's no other way. Love is not something that we're benedicted with. Love is something that we engage in from the core of our heart, according to our ability. And Krishna promises that as we approach him with love, to that Tejam Satata Yuktanam Bhajat, to those who are devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Krishna promises this in Bhagavad Gita. So, and as we approach Krishna, he says, as they approach, I reciprocate. So when as we, according to our present capacity, try with sincere heart to engage in devotional practice, in devotional service with a feeling of love in the heart, then Krishna gives us feedback. He gives us some degree of sense of reciprocation. And that reciprocation makes us causes us to desire, oh, I want to be able to live with this sense of connection. So in Krishna consciousness, the means and the goal are one and the same. They're not different. The goal is love, but the means is also love. It's just like going into business. A person who goes into business wants to realize some profit. But he can't go into business unless he has some startup capital. He has to bring, money is the goal, but money is the means. Similarly, if one goes to a gambling casino, the goal is to make some money. But if one doesn't bring something to the table, he can't play. He can't participate. So love is the goal, but love is the means. And in this, we have to begin to understand that this is what Krishna wants from us. Very simple. If we really understand that Krishna has arranged all of this, the whole material world, simply for us to have the opportunity to cultivate this feeling of love for him. It's already there in all of our hearts. it's in a kind of a dormant stage. But as we engage in these activities with sincerity, with feelings of affection, with feelings of gratitude, with feelings of love, we begin to realize that this is the reward that we've been looking for in everything that we've been doing all of our lives. And we're told that we've been doing this for millions of births. So to more directly try to answer what you're saying, to the degree that we can follow, to that degree, we will advance. And it's each person has to decide for himself how much they want. Do I want to go back home?
Rupa, can you hear? Did he freeze, or is it my connection?
Freeze, I guess.
Oh, okay, he froze. Okay. Ishan Prabhu, you froze, Prabhu. I think it's your internet connection that is not working properly.
So can connect again, I guess. Just rejoin again.
Yeah. So Prabhu, if you can rejoin again, your connection is not so good. Ishan Prabhu, connection. Okay, let me see. Let me send him a message. Oh, okay. All right, let's see here. Let's pause it. All right, so we'll continue in a few minutes when Ishan Prabhu joins back again. Okay. What happened here? Let me see. In the meantime, I'll play some Prabhupada videos. Second. Srila Prabhupada. Kirtan.
Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam
Ishan Prabhu, you're still muted, Prabhu. Can you unmute yourself? Okay, there we go. I think there's some connection problems here and there sometimes. So, okay, let's continue here. Mohit Prabhu, if you have any questions or realizations to share, please feel free. Okay, let's go to text 13. 1 second, let me load it up here. Okay, so text 13, Ato Maha Bhaga Bhavan Amoga Suchi Sarva Satya Rato Vritha Uru karmasya akhila Vanda muktaye sam adhin anusmara tad sitam. Ato, therefore, Mahabhaga, highly fortunate, Bhavan, yourself, what does it say? Amoga, direct, the perfect seer, Suchi, spotless, Sarva, famous, Satya Ratha, having taken the vow of truthfulness, Rita Vratha, fixed in spiritual qualities, Uru Karmasya, of the one who performs supernatural activities, God, Akhila, universal, Bandha, bondage, Muktaya, for liberation, from Samhadhina, by trance, Anusmara, thinking repeatedly, and then describe them, Tatha Vishitam, the various pastimes of the Lord. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O Vyasadeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fortune is spotless. You are firm in vow and situated in truthfulness, and thus you can think of the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. People in general have a taste for literatures by instinct. They want to hear and read from authorities something about the unknown, but their taste is exploited by unfortunate literatures which are full of subject matter for satisfaction of the material senses. Such literatures contain different kinds of mundane poems and philosophical speculations, more or less under the influence of Maya, ending in sense gratification. These literatures, although worthless in the true sense of the term, are variously decorated to attract the attention of the less intelligent man. Thus, the attracted living entities are more and more entangled in material bondage without the hope of liberation for thousands and thousands of generations. Sri Narada Rishi, being the best among the Vaishnavas, is compassionate towards such fortunate victims of worthless literatures, and thus he advises Sri Vyasadeva to compose transcendental literature which is not only attractive but can actually bring liberation from all kinds of bondage. Srila Vyasadeva or his representative are qualified because they are rightly trained to see things in true perspective. Sri Vyasadeva and his representative are pure in thought due to their spiritual enlightenment, fixed in their vows due to their devotional service, and determined to deliver the fallen souls rotting in material activities. The fallen souls are very eager to receive novel informations every day, and the transcendentalists like Vyasadeva or Narada can supply such eager people in general with unlimited news from the spiritual world. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the material world is only part of the whole creation and that the earth is only a fragment of the whole material world. Okay, let's see here. Maybe we can discuss the first paragraph, Ishan Prabhu, before going to the next. It's a big...
Well, yeah, the idea is that people are, by nature, they're attracted to hearing about things.
Yes.
And one of the, idle talk, Srila Prabhupada used to again and again say, don't talk about don't talk about politics, don't
Hmm.
talk about this and that. Talk about Krishna.
Hmm.
So what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that personalities like Narada Muni and Srila Vyasadeva, they are fixed in devotional, always thinking about Krishna with love in their heart and thinking of Krishna's pastimes, and they can help us. They're qualified to give us that kind of subject matter of Krishna, that if we give our submissive oral reception, this will purify our hearts, so that gradually we will come to the stage of spontaneous love of Krishna, and we won't want to hear anything else. And in that way, our life will become perfect, because we'll become qualified to leave this world of birth and death and not come back here. So this is what I believe Srila Prabhupada is discussing in these first paragraph or so.
Okay, let me continue here. So one can raise a question here. If people are attracted to, let me put the verse here. Where is it? 1 second, bros. If people are attracted to so much speculation or knowing about the unknown, they have, that does not, Prabhupada is saying here about the unknown, but the taste is exploited by unfortunate literatures which are full of subject matter for satisfaction of the material senses. So the unknown, which is Krishna, or which is being neglected in the material world, people, so many volumes of books are written. So this mode of ignorance and passion, literatures actually have no basis in the human society, right? According to the Bhagavatam, which does not glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's not congenial for the advancement of the human form of life.
You know, if you go to the university, they have courses on philosophy, courses in psychology, courses in sociology, and then there are all the material sciences. So the unknown.
Yeah.
If people are curious, they want to understand how everything works. But why do they want to understand how everything works? We want to understand so that we can utilize it for some positive result. But to hear all these other literatures by hundreds, thousands of books are being written, but they are devoid of knowledge of the absolute, devoid of information, descriptions of the Lord, his form, his name, his pastimes, his paraphernalia. One can read those kind of literatures for thousands or millions of lifetimes. You will never develop love for Krishna or reawaken our dormant love for Krishna. So it's all useless waste of time. At the same time, these people are so highly regarded in society as very, very intelligent people. The professors, the when I went to university as a younger person, I went to see one of my professors, And he told me, really, we don't know anything. We make all of this. We make it all up. We just make these things. And every year they would say, don't buy last year's books on this course or that course, because now we have new ideas. So this is always, but yet at the same time, they're recognized and respected. People, political science, they don't know how to, they have no political science. Political science is contained in our literature. Social science is contained in our Varnashram Dharma. However, how to organize the society in such a way that the whole society is moving together, each from our separate position as Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, moving back home, So the social science, everything is there. Psychology is there. Everything is, the ultimate psychology is there. The three modes of material, how nature is working. This is also there. How to create an atmosphere on the planet whereby the rainfall is sufficient. Now today, there's forest fires, there's droughts, there's floods, there's plague. Why? They have no knowledge how to solve these things. Disease. So, but by the performance of Jaga, and in this Kali Yuga Sankirtan Jaga, when all of the demigods are pleased because we're trying to please Krishna in this way, everything becomes adjusted. The rainfall becomes adjusted. The people are not caught in volcanoes and earthquakes. So we have the people want, so we were reading, this is all what the unknown. That people are looking for answers in every department, whether it's social science, psychology, individual science, how to organize society, politics, how to everything, medicine, all our basic needs, everything is being given through these teachings that Srila Prabhupada is giving us.
Jai. Rupert, do you want to read, or Mohit?
Sure, I'll read.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Elizabeth. Yeah. Rupa,
Okay.
go ahead.
There are thousands and thousands of literary men all over the world, and they have created many, many thousands of literary works for the information of the people in general for thousands and thousands of years. Unfortunately, none of them have brought peace and tranquility on the earth. This is due to a spiritual vacuum in those literatures. Therefore, the Vedic literatures, especially the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, are specifically recommended to suffering humanity to bring about the desired effect of liberation from the pangs of material civilization, which is eating the vital part of the human energy. The Bhagavad Gita is the spoken message of the Lord himself recorded by Vyasadeva, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental narration of the activities of the same Lord Krishna, which alone can satisfy the hankering desires of the living being for eternal peace and liberation from miseries. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is meant for all the living beings all over the universe, for total liberation from all kinds of material bondage. Such transcendental narrations of the pastimes of the Lord can be described only by liberated souls like Vyasadeva and his bona fide representatives, who are completely merged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Only to such devotees do the pastimes of the Lord and their transcendental nature become automatically manifest by dint of devotional service. No one else can either know or describe the acts of the Lord, even if they speculate on the subject for many, many years. The descriptions of the Bhagavatam are so precise and accurate that whatever has been predicted in this great literature about 5,000 years ago is now exactly happening. Therefore, the vision of the author comprehends past, present, and future. Such liberated persons as Vyasadeva are perfect not only by the power of vision and wisdom, but also in oral reception, in thinking, feeling, and all other sense activities. A liberated person possesses perfect senses, and with perfect senses only can one serve the sense proprietor Rishikesha, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is the perfect description of the all-perfect personality of Godhead by the all-perfect personality Srila Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedas.
This is an amazing last paragraph where Srila Prabhupada is talking about the liberated soul, or himself specifically, you can say, because he has said many things in the Srimad Bhagavatam which are exactly happening, now. Well, it's been happening, but very. He's saying here the liberated soul can see the past. Why does it say the power of vision? Where is it? You just read it.
Right above.
Yeah, right here. Huh? Past, present, and future. This is very powerful insight. So, what can he see? Past, present, and future. Can he see? He's seeing the spiritual world and describing it. Is that it? And describing how the living entities can engage in that service. Well, so this ISKCON movement, when Prabhupada started it, it was a very powerful movement, or it still is to a large degree because it's growing more or less. So it's just amazing to see this kind of writing by Srila Prabhupada. This is also very interesting. No one else can either know or describe the acts of the Lord, even if they speculate on the subject for many, many years. Wow.
I like that. A few lines down, Srila Prabhupada writes that a liberated person possesses perfect senses, and with perfect senses only can one serve the sense proprietor, Rishikesh, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. So
Okay.
we can serve Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by rendering service under the guidance of the liberated person. Because he has this qualification. He knows he's personally in touch with Krishna, and he can guide us. Therefore, it's imperative for people like us who are conditioned souls. We're under the influence of the illusory energy, and we cannot have this perfect understanding. We need that kind of guidance. Therefore, to serve Krishna for us means to serve Srila Prabhupada. And Krishna says in different places in the Vedic literature that one who thinks he is my devotee, is not my devotee, but one who is the devotee of my devotee. He's the devotee.
Hmm.
So this is part of what we call the science of Krishna consciousness. The only way one can actually go back home, back to Godhead, is by becoming surrendered to a pure devotee. The pure devotee can receive our service and engage us in Krishna's service in that way.
Let's see what else is there here in this. Yeah.
It also says, only to such devotees do the pastimes of the Lord and their transcendental nature become automatically manifest by dint of their devotional service. I heard a lecture by Srila Prabhupada just the other day where he said that we actually, he said we have like a television within our heart. And when that television, we can all see the spiritual world. But that capacity has to be brought into play very gradually under the guidance of a pure devotee. The pure devotee, he can see the pastimes of the Lord. He's not speculating. Srila Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, Srila Prabhupada, they can see the pastimes of the Lord within their heart 24 hours a day. They're actually living in the spiritual world, even though they appear to be within the material world. It's very amazing. So we need to seek the shelter of such a person. We need to seek the shelter of a Mahabhagavata, pure devotee. And this is said again and again in our literature, that only such a pure devotee can bless us with more understanding. This is his, he's authorized and empowered to do that. And therefore, one should try to find a spiritual master who is a pure devotee, a confidential servant of Krishna, and try to cultivate a very personal relationship with him. And he will be moved so that he will be moved to bless us with more understanding. And we sing every day the devotees, Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada. When the pure devotee, when the spiritual master is pleased, then Krishna is pleased. And there's really no other way for us to approach Krishna. And therefore, in the previous verse, Shakshad Hari Tena Samasta Shastra, that we can relate to our spiritual master, who is a confidential, intimate servant of the Supreme Lord Krishna. We can relate to him as we would relate to Krishna himself. This is Krishna's way. Krishna, he has created this this process. This is Krishna's process. And it's coming down to us through the cyclic succession. And there's no other way to approach God. But we're very fortunate because we have this opportunity.
Another comment I would like to make here, Ishan Prabhu, is living, I mean, Srila Prabhupada seemingly just disappeared or just came and disappeared. So I think as conditioned souls, taking birth at this moment and this time, we take it for granted a lot of things. Now, if we were born maybe 1,000 years from now, and looking back, no, we would like, a good example is the Christians. They have one Jesus and they have many philosophies, but still that figure, that personality, Jesus, Son of God, is worshipped. So I think we as Prabhupada's disciples we don't appreciate this. We think, oh, Prabhupada is gone, or he was a man of a different time, or he came and left. Now it's up to us. So all these mundane conceptions come in our head, and it's propagated by, these imperfect people. So that was a comment I'd like to make. We take it very cheaply. Pure devotee appeared, gave wonderful literature. Now, we can replace him, or people want to replace him. So it's just unfortunate.
What we know,
Yes.
what we know, for instance, you mentioned Christianity. What we know about Jesus, we're getting from a book. But what is that book? There was a king in England called King James. So we're reading King James Version. Similarly, if you go online and Google, it will tell you that the Bible has been edited. And that in the 3rd or 5th century after Jesus disappeared, the Catholic Church decided to remove reincarnation from the Bible. There's an awful lot of evidence that these meetings of the Catholic Church took place like that.
The Council of Nicaea.
Okay. So what we're trying to say is that, because you were raising the question of over time, but Srila Prabhupada was emphatic that the book should not be changed. Now it's only 50 years and they're changing, thousands of changes in the book. But so if the books are not, if they are being changed like that, then they will continue to be changed like that. It's only 50 years and already everything has changed so much. But if the pure books, as Srila Prabhupada gave them to us, are still there, it doesn't matter if it's 1 year or 10,000 years, the book is there. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada's videos and his lectures, audio, one can hear from him. One cannot hear from Jesus today. Well, maybe there are some very, very exceptional people that can hear within their heart, but for us, anyone can have full access to sit and listen to Srila Prabhupada speak, and it's as powerful as if he was in Srila Prabhupada's presence, and that is available to everyone today. So Srila Prabhupada's books are there in unchanged form, and one should only buy those books or read those books. And Srila Prabhupada's lectures are there, and Srila Prabhupada's singing, chanting of the holy name is there to be able to hear. See, Jesus also said, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. your name is sacred. And if we chant it, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, the whole world will become like heaven if we fill the sound, the airwaves with the sound vibration of the holy name. But nobody can hear Jesus today. But we can hear Srila Prabhupada singing in that way. In the 18th chapter of Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada says, the process is that the pure devotee chants the mantra into the ear of the disciple, and if the disciple chants with equal respect, that becomes the worship of the holy name. And then he goes on to describe that one can come to the point of chanting in ecstatic love of God in this way. In other words, it's not simply that he says chant 16 rounds or chant Hare Krishna as a bhajan or a kirtan, but one should be chanting under the guidance of a pure devotee. And as we'll be reading further in this chapter, text number 25, where Srila Prabhupada says that this devotional feeling or quality of the heart is infectious in a good sense, just like a disease, an infectious disease. By association, one can get this taste, and then he can chant with equal feeling. So this is a science of Krishna consciousness, and that will be available whether 1 year, 10 years, or 100 years, or 1,000 years. This will be available in this age. We have all this digital world. For the most part, it's confusion and what is the word I'm looking for? People are just I'm looking for a word, but I can't, meaning that our mind is being taken everywhere off course. Distraction. People are looking for distraction. People are looking madly for distraction. Why are people looking for distraction? Because they're so unable to live with themselves. When this plague, what do we call it? COVID came. You can see online that people, the percentage of suicides went up. People were cut off from their social life. Why people need so much distraction? So much so that to be unable to go to clubs and meetings and this and that makes them so that they're so unhappy to be with themselves that they want to end their life. So, but that's another issue. But the idea is that, yeah, we have the opportunity to be intimately in touch with Krishna's pure devotee through his books, through his recordings, through his picture, through his murti form, in so many ways, and everything we should do and everything we shouldn't do, perfect guidance and personal association to become influenced by him, so that our hearts, if we have an intimate relation, cultivate a sense of intimate relationship with Srila Prabhupada, he'll teach us, he will guide us, so that our hearts will become infected with the quality of devotional service. So this is available to us. It's not a question of not being available anymore. It is available. in a way that it's not available in any other path of religion on the planet.
Okay. Any comments from our devotees here? Rupa, you wanted to say something?
I have a question for Ishan Prabhu. You were talking about the book changes. Why do you think they changed Prabhupada's books?
I can only guess that they think they know better than Srila Prabhupada how to present these teachings. Srila Prabhupada was emphatic, and he was calling these people by different names. He called them rascals and fools, and criticized them so sharply when he was here with us, and saying again and again and again, there's so much documentation showing that don't change, don't change, don't change. So why are they changing? They must think that they know better than Srila Prabhupada what's important to present. In other words, they don't know who Srila Prabhupada is. To think for 1 second that we can do something better in spite of his instruction. When Srila Prabhupada was here, they were doing things of that nature.
Yeah.
The different leaders in ISKCON, and he was expressing his frustration that these people so in other words, they were not understanding who Srila Prabhupada is. That's why they not only, for the same reason that they could think they could make book changes, for the same reason they think they could take the position of guru. They don't know who Srila Prabhupada is. So Srila Prabhupada, who is Srila Prabhupada? That all of the acharyas in our disciplic succession of the Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya, they are all Nitya Siddha. They are all coming from the spiritual world. And I was reading in the 7th canto where Srila Prabhupada, first chapter, is making repeatedly the point that a person from the spiritual world, they're not influenced at all by the 3 modes of material nature. They look like one of us, but they're totally transcendental beings. And that in Srila Prabhupada said in different places that all the 8-fold mystic powers of the yogis are insignificant to the power of a pure devotee. A yogi can create a planet, an advanced yogi. That's insignificant to them. So they are and Srila Prabhupada writes in his books in many places that we should not think of him as an ordinary human being. And those are his very words. But he acts like he is one of us. Because he's an acharya, meaning he teaches by his example, giving us a standard for us to follow, that we should live the way he's behaving. He also says that a pure devotee is very reluctant, or doesn't want to show his powers at all. But he also says in many places in his books that unless one is specifically empowered by Krishna, nobody could spread the holy name to the whole planet. And it says that it's predicted in our literature that there's going to be a personality who's going to, there's a technical term in Sanskrit, specifically Lord Chaitanya is God himself, Krishna himself, but he's using his pure devotee to spread. He says that this is going to go to every town and village on the planet, this chanting of the holy name, and there's going to be someone who will do that. Well, that someone is Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada says, unless one is specifically empowered by Krishna, it's not possible to spread the holy name to every town. So that's the person we're talking about. So why would they try to take Srila Prabhupada's position when he's teaching that only? But it's also written in our books that when a pure devotee departs, all chaos comes. We know that after Lord Chaitanya, Krishna himself was here chanting in public in Jagannath Puri and with all of his associates. And within from 500 years ago to 200 years ago, the whole thing was lost, so much so that no respectable person in India would have anything to do with Vaishnavism. And because they became so debauched. And so they twisted and changed everything so much. So that's just the nature of the material world. At first, it's a shock to think that they would do such a thing. But then one has to soberly understand that they don't know who Srila Prabhupada is. And they can't. That's all I can understand, why they would do these things.
Rupa, because Rupa Manjari Prabhu, you mentioned about the books. So there's a new website. I think you'd like this website. So this website contains all the original documents of the BBT, the trust documents which have been hidden from the public's eye. Some devotees who are working and presenting all these documents. For example, this is the original trust document that was established by Srila Prabhupada in 1972. It's loading, so we'll just kind of bounce through it. Let's see here. So Prabhupada put everything out very clearly. You can see here. Where is that? 1 second here. So everyone can see. Let me just load it so devotees can see here. Okay, here we go.
Who is running this? Who's in charge of the BBT now?
Oh,
I'm out of touch.
Oh, so it's a devotee.
Is it run?
Yeah, it's run. Well, it's not. Hansadura appointed apparently this Abhimanyu Prabhu. He's a Russian devotee. He got appointed by Hansadura Prabhu to be a trustee of the BBT that he was a trustee to. So this is the document here. If you can see here, Prabhupada's 1972 trust agreement. It's all available online at bhaktivedanta-booktrust.com. So these are the documents here. See it? This is the original. Prabhupada writes the purpose of the trust is here. So name of the trust. All the documents are here. All the books. And let's see what else is there. It's 19 pages. So you can see here. Management of the trust fund. So Srila Prabhupada gave everything on how to manage his whole movement. For the books, here's his signature here. You can see here, this was in May 1972 here.
Can you Tell me, what is the address online for this website?
It's called bhaktivedanta-booktrust.com. I'll send it to you via email. Ishan
Cool.
Prabhu. Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
got it now. I would, Hansaduta told me,
Yes.
he said that he asked Srila Prabhupada why Srila Prabhupada had put Hansaduta as a trustee, because Hansaduta never finished high school. Hansaduta was not educated. So Hansaduta said to Srila Prabhupada, you have many students who are graduates of university in different capacity. Some are lawyers. Some of them are masters of business administration, things of that nature. He said, why have you, the Srila Prabhupada said, because you understand the importance of my books. And he said also about this BBT, he said, the devotees may fail to continue to be devotees, and the temples also may fail. Srila Prabhupada said that. But I want that these books, they should always be available. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada set up the BBT as separate from ISKCON legally. That ISKCON should not be able or allowed to tamper with his books. Srila Prabhupada was trying to make sure that his books were protected from ISKCON. He set it up in that way.
Yes.
The
Yes.
BBT was made separate from ISKCON because he knew, we were just reading tonight that he knows past, present, and future.
Yes.
So Srila Prabhupada created the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, but he created the BBT, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, that separate from ISKCON, that ISKCON cannot have access to changing his book.
Yes.
So this means that he understood what was going to happen,
Yes.
and he was trying to prevent like that.
Yes. 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 So I'd like to point another attention to another document here that I have that devotees can see here. This is a document of the fake BBT that was established in November 30th in 1986. And here are the signers on the document. I'll read it over. Hari K. Swami, Tamal Krishna. This is Tamal Krishna, Gopal Krishna, and Hridayananda. So they established this fake, the BBT Corporation in 1986.
Isn't
And-
it BBTI?
Yeah, it's called
Yeah.
International BBT. This was a meeting done in 1986. They concocted this corporation. It's not a trust, it's a corporation. So
Yeah,
here,
it's called a trust, but it's not actually a trust.
yeah, it's not a trust. So they made this concoction, the corporate international BBT. So that document is also here. So if you go to this website, you'll see how they try to hijack Prabhupada's BBT. So all the documents are here. You can see here, this was done in, this is all secret documents that are coming out now. This was done in International BBT meeting, November 30th to December 1st, 1986, Dallas, Texas. And you see here present, the names are here. trustees, Chairman Harikesh Swami, Tamal Krishna Goswami, Jayapataka Swami, Gopal Krishna, Hridayananda Goswami, also Sri Ramadas, Secretary. So these are the people who are responsible for creating this fake corporation called the BBT. So this is now being revealed to the whole world that they concocted this.
They took Hansaduta to court,
Jai. Haribol.
and
Jai.
Hansaduta, he had a lawyer.
Gupta.
The lawyer was a devotee.
Yeah.
Yeah. The attorney was a devotee. The attorneys met with the judge. Gupta, he was supposed to be working for Hansaduta, but actually he became aligned with these other people, ISKCON people, the Harikesh, etc.
Yes.
And they went into the judge's chamber, just the attorneys from both sides. They were trying to steal the rights. It is written, and there's a document which shows the word for word. And they said that Srila Prabhupada had no right to create a trust, a book trust, because Srila Prabhupada, they are not Srila Prabhupada's books. They said the books that Srila Prabhupada wrote, they said this in court, that Srila Prabhupada was hired by ISKCON to write these books. And the books really belong to ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada set up the BBT to keep the books separate from ISKCON. ISKCON went to court and said Srila Prabhupada had no right to create a BBT because he was only working as a hired assistant to ISKCON. One cannot even begin to imagine what an offensive insult that is to Krishna's pure devotee,
Yes.
saying that he had no right to create and protect these books because he was simply a hired person hired by ISKCON to write these books. So they went into the judge's chambers. The judge told them, the attorneys, that ISKCON really had no ground to stand on. They could not take charge of these books. But when the attorneys came out, Hansaduta's attorney, instead of actually working for Hansaduta, he was actually working for ISKCON. He was siding with them, even though Hansaduta was paying him a great fee for representing his case in court. In his heart, he was working. So he never told Hansaduta that the ISKCON case would not be honored by the court. And they arranged that I don't remember exact details because it's very, very intricate.
Yes.
But they convinced Hansaduta to sign something whereby he still had the right to print the original books, but now ISKCON had the right also to print and change books. So Hansaduta agreed. He was cheated by his attorney, who was secretly working for ISKCON. So these things, it's inconceivable. It means, if one actually believes Srila Prabhupada is who he really is, one wouldn't even dare to think to do anything like this. But it means that they didn't. They took him as an ordinary human being. And they also, I just can't understand it myself personally. I just can't understand why they would even want to be, consider them, why they would want to be devotees if they didn't know that Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee. And it just said, confidential associate of the Supreme Lord, sent to this planet to extend Lord Chaitanya's movement to the whole world. It's not possible that they could understand. So they're making their changes like that. I can't. It just doesn't. It doesn't compute in my mind. I don't have the ability to talk about these things in a very nice way, in a very clear way. But to my mind, it just means that they think they know better than Srila Prabhupada, and I can't understand why they would even want to be devotees of Srila Prabhupada or devotees at all. It doesn't make sense to me. But they are doing these things, and they are changing the books, and they're making it, ISKCON makes it against the law that any ISKCON temple can distribute any books of Srila Prabhupada other than the books they have changed. That is their way of doing. So these people, as far as I can understand, they couldn't be more offensive to Srila Prabhupada than they are, and just what is going to come to them because of this. I just can't imagine. I don't understand how they could think like that. To change one letter, one period, one comma. How it's inconceivable to me.
Yeah, so yeah, it's inconceivable, but they did this these things. So
and they're still doing.
And they're still doing it.
They're
so the
still
document,
doing it.
yeah. So the documents are available for anyone who wants to see it on this website. These are facsimile copies of Prabhupada's original BBT trust established in. You can see here. It was established. The original trustees were Bali Mardan, Karandara, and Srila Prabhupada's signature is also here. So everything is here, so people can educate themselves and understand what the real trust that Prabhupada started and its purpose was, and how Srila Prabhupada says it's not controlled by ISKCON in any way. So all the documents are here. It's never been available, I think, on the internet. So we should utilize this opportunity to at least read it. So, okay. Let's see. Let's go to the next verse now. Let's see.
Thanks for sharing that, Ramachandra Prabhu.
Oh, you're welcome. So, Prabhupada's BBT is still alive. So hopefully they print books soon. I'm trying to see if they will, but I hope they will. Okay, here we go. Let's read this verse. Mohit Prabhu, do you want to read? Start from up here.
No, bro, I'm a bit tired. I just went yesterday to Vrindavan
Okay.
and Barsana, so a bit tired. You guys can read.
Okay.
I'll have some realization. I'll surely speak, bro. Sorry,
Okay.
my voice is a bit feeble now. Very well.
Okay. Let's see here. I'll start text 14, Srimad Bhagavatam, 1:5-14. Tato nyayata kinchana yad vivakastata pratha dhirastata krita rupa nama bhihi na karharti kavapi cha dusthana dushtitha matir labheta vatahata naru isvapadam. And the synonyms: tatha, from that, anyatha, apart, kinchana, something, yat, whatsoever, viveksthatha, desiring to describe, prathak, separately, darsha, vision, tatkrita, reactionary to that, rupa, form, nabhi, by name, na, karhichit, never, kavipi, any, cha, and dusthita, matha, oscillating mind, labhate, gains, vatha, ahita, troubled by the wind, nahu, boat, iva, like, apashadam, place. Translation: whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms, names, and results to agitate the mind as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place. Purport: Srila Vyasadeva is the editor of all descriptions of Vedic literatures, and thus he has described transcendental realization in different ways, namely by fruitive activities, speculative knowledge, mystic power, and devotional service. Besides that, in his various Puranas, he has recommended the worship of so many demigods in different forms and names. The result is that people in general are puzzled how to fix their minds in the service of the Lord. They are always disturbed about finding the real path of self-realization. Sri Nardadev is stressing this particular defect in the Vedic literatures compiled by Vyasadeva, and thus he is trying to emphasize describing everything in relation with the Supreme Lord and no one else. In fact, there is nothing else existent except the Lord. The Lord is manifested in different expansions. That is the root of the complete tree. He is the stomach of the complete body. Pouring water on the root is the right process to water the tree, as much as feeding the stomach supplies energy to all parts of the body. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva should not have compiled the Puranas, any Puranas other than the Bhagavad Purana, because a slight deviation from that may create havoc for self-realization. If a slight deviation can create such havoc, then what to speak of deliberate expansion of the ideas separate from the absolute truth, personality of Godhead? The most effective part of worshipping demigods is that it creates a definite conception of pantheism, ending disastrously in many religious sects, detrimental to the process of the principles of the Bhagavatam, which alone can give accurate direction for self-realization in eternal relation with the personality of Godhead by devotional service in transcendental love. The example of the boat disturbed by the whirling wind is suitable in this respect. The diverted mind of the pantheist can never reach the perfection of self-realization due to the disturbed condition of the selection of object.
Can you look up the word pantheism?
Yes, let me do that right now. Pantheist. Okay. Okay. Pantheist means. Okay, let me share the screen here. Where is it? Here we go. Here we go. A doctrine or belief which identifies God with the universe or regards the universe as a manifestation of God. Is this the correct definition? A worship of
I guess, Prabhu, this is not. I've been also searching it out.
worship?
Very good.
Yes.
So
Oh,
I
yes.
guess this
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 is
is
the right
more related
definition.
towards.
Srila Prabhupada is saying the worship or tolerance of many gods. I think that's the context that Srila Prabhupada is using it here. The second
So
meaning.
is it like
Yeah.
demigods? Is it like not worshipping demigods, right? Very good.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Let me go back to the screen. Here we go. Okay, so we're back here. We were just discussing about Srila Prabhupada's BBT, the original BBT, and you know, here it's kind of doing a similar thing here by changing Srila Prabhupada's books and this many deviant ideas that have came in society. You know, many so-called changed books, different types of gurus. Here it's saying, because a slight deviation from that may create havoc for self-realization. If a slight deviation creates such havoc, then what to speak of deliberate expansion of the idea separate from the absolute truth of Godhead? So I just wanted to make that point, you know, that the changed books have made a huge, you know, deviation to Srila Prabhupada's movement or the Krishna consciousness movement. And by that same thing, this part of having multiple gurus, you know, being worshipped in Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON, of worshipping many demigods. So we see that in Prabhupada's morning Guru Puja, you know, it's not describing a conditioned soul, it's describing the pure devotee. So, Ishan Prabhu, any comments?
You know, in different places, here in this text that we're looking at, this purport, Srila Prabhupada is making the point that because of the way Srila Vyasadeva wrote the Vedic literature, the Puranas, etc., it seems to encourage pantheism and to encourage demigod worship and encourage the idea that there are many gods. And the Vedic literatures say, you know, Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam, that, and in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, demigod worship is for less intelligent people, specifically because the demigods can only give temporal rewards or boons or results by being worshipped. They can't free one from the cycle of birth and death. They themselves are subject to being in the cycle of birth and death. So, but at other places in Srila Prabhupada's books, in the Bhagavatam, he also explains another point of view, that there are people who they cannot think. Their minds are not clear enough to understand that to achieve a temporary reward just doesn't make sense. when we have the chance to have eternal life, to go to the spiritual world and never to come back to the material world again. There are people who can't understand that. Because their minds are so much, they want so much to have material sense pleasures of different kinds, to have material progress of different kinds, that they are attracted to worship of the demigods, or to do good work, or to create good karma, that sort of thing. And Srila Prabhupada says in those places that for such people, this worship is progressive. It's progressive in the sense that they're recognizing something greater than themselves, and they're abiding by certain rules and regulations. And if they continue to live in this way, they can gradually perhaps be purified enough to become attracted to the philosophy that we're studying, that the goal of life is not to create heaven on earth, but to leave this place, because from the highest planet in the material world to the lowest planet, all are places of birth and death. So it's being presented in two ways. On the one hand, that these different yoga paths and these different forms of worship are progressive for people who are very materially attached. But on the other hand, it's being pointed out, what is the real goal of life? What is the real goal of spiritual pursuit, period? It's to break out of the cycle of birth and death and leave the material world and never to come back again. So that's being pointed out here.
Jai, Evo, Jai, Jai Prabhupada.
Let's see what else we have here. Really quick.
So, Prabhu,
So
Haribo, Honorable.
Narada Muni. Go. You want to speak, Prabhu? Hare Krishna.
Go ahead, Mohit Prabhu. Yes.
So, Prabhu, one realization what I would love to share when I've gone to Vrindavan, right, yesterday, was that specific sects of Gaudiya Math, which were like, I mean, people who were like very much interested into ISKCON, they've gone towards Narayan Swami's sect just because of devotees after Prabhupada dying not following Prabhupada's instructions. What they did was they went to those devotees and devotees got frustrated, and then their answers were not answered after Prabhupada dying, and then they moved on towards other sects. And this was done by choice by ISKCON senior leaders, because after Prabhupada dying, he left everything in his Vani. Everything was written in these scriptures and everything was written exactly how he wanted. But these guys, out of their choice, went ahead and made this big mistake, and which is what Prabhupada's ISKCON, which is very Prabhupada's ISKCON, not the latest ISKCON I'm talking about, which Prabhupada's ISKCON wanted was not, this can't be established now. So that's the issue which they've done, and it's a very big offense to Prabhupada, right? It's a big offense to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. But
Yeah, if you study the history of Prabhupada's movement from 1966, 1965, and then 66, then all the way to 1970, there's some interesting things going on. And I've talked to some senior devotees who were present in 66, and some who were present in 67, 68, and 69. So it gives a very interesting perspective of what Prabhupada was dealing with, and just to put it in simple terms, that and many of the things he was foreseeing in his movement in the future. That's why he did many things, right? He established a direction of management in 1970 on how the temple should be managed, and then he established the BBT in 1972, and then he gave his final will and instructions. So it was a deliberate move, I think, by various men to to stop for the Prabhupada disciples who were waiting to get initiated in 1976 all the way to 1977. It was a deliberate attempt to hold back those initiations. Then when Srila Prabhupada was going to disappear, these so-called 11 were going to take over the movement. It was, I think, a plan. It's definitely a planned event. They're holding the letters, and then Prabhupada passing away, and they started initiating back in 77, early 77, 78. And all the Prabhupada disciples who were waiting to be initiated by him got initiated by, Tamal and these other people. And at the same time, devotees who protested, many like Pradumna Prabhu, Prabhupada's Sanskrit scholar, they were immediately kicked out, and new disciples were made, from the public. Like, they initiated their own disciples. They kicked out all the Prabhupada disciples who protested in 77, 78, 79. And then they got their own disciples around 1980. And in this way, they basically hijacked the whole movement. And they created that BBT, which we saw in 1986. You saw the signatures there: Tamal Krishna, Hari Kesh, Gopal Krishna, and Jay Pataka. So it gives you a real insight on what was happening and who was doing what, right?
I heard a
Very
lecture.
sad. Very sad to hear these guys
It's
are doing.
inconceivable, but
Yeah.
at the same,
mean,
I heard a lecture by Srila Prabhupada yesterday morning, where he said he was describing how that Vidura, he was actually Yamaraj, and that he came down, he was cursed to be a Sudra. It's a pastime. He took the birth of a Sudra because his mother was not actually the queen. He was impregnated by one of the maidservants in the palace where the Kuru dynasty was at that time. So Vidura, although he could speak very beautifully, he wasn't acknowledged as a royal person because his mother was Sudrani. So, but Srila Prabhupada says, why did he take the birth of a Sudra? There's a pastime that Yamaraj was cursed by some Muni for making a decision that the Muni thought was inappropriate. So Srila Prabhupada says, he's making the point that those who are in very high positions, he said, if they do something wrong, if you're in a low position and you do something wrong, then the punishment may be small. But if you're in a very high position and you do something wrong, the punishment can be very, very great.
Yes.
And then he said, and you know what he said next?
The GBC?
He said, therefore, yeah. And right there he says, therefore, those who are GBC, be very, very careful. If they do change anything, make anything different, the punishment will be very great.
Hmm. Yeah. So
What they're
yeah.
doing, it's inconceivable to me. Inconceivable. It means if they knew who Srila Prabhupada was and actually had faith like that,
Hmm.
surely they would never dare to do what they're doing. It means
Yeah.
they don't know who Srila Prabhupada is.
They're offending their guru, bro. Indirectly, they're offending their guru. That's the biggest sin which you're doing.
Indirectly, more
Totally.
like directly, because Prabhupada's instructions are very clear on how he wants the movement to go on. It's nothing indirect about it. If you read
Yeah,
the
yeah.
BBT trust document, it's very clear. It's not 1,000 pages. It's just a handful of pages.
And one more frustration which I've seen, Prabhu, those who follow Prabhupada very strictly, is that Prabhupada never wanted people to join Gaudiya Math. He was always against this. He was always saying that I don't want anyone to join. He knew what was going on in the Gaudiya Math, so he never wanted us. But people are out of frustration going there just because of how it's running, and the organization is not concerned about their well-being, nothing, and what to say. Bro. So it's a hard hitting point that your guru never wanted, and then people have to go there just to run away from the corporate organizations being run. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's take a quick tour of the verse one more time. We have about 12 minutes before 9 o'clock. So if anyone online has any questions or comments, they can post it and we'll read it. Okay. There's some comments that I'd like to share here. Just real quickly from the devotees watching online. Peter Prabhu is saying, Jai, Moses Singleton Prabhu, Haribol, peace and blessings. Peter Prabhu is saying that in India, Indian ISKCON is getting bigger. And the opposite has happened in America. In India, ISKCON is huge and growing. There's another devotee saying, Pranam, my brother. And Lakshmi Prabhu is saying, Hare Krishna. So that's the comments from the devotees online. Okay, any concluding statements, Rupa manjri, Prabhu?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Mohit, anything?
Nothing else, Haribol. Nothing else.
Okay,
Very
Ishan
lovely
Prabhu,
to see
thank you very much.
devotees.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
yes.
Very lovely to see devotees like senior devotees like Ishan Prabhu and you who just guiding us through, right? I mean, it's all Krishna's mercy. It's all Prabhupada's mercy that I've been invited to this meeting, bro. And I wish Nananayan Prabhu also comes back again. Missing him a lot. Yeah, Haribol.
Yes, Narayan Prabhu is doing better. I had a conversation with him. He's very, he's a very enthusiastic person. He's a very jolly person also. So hopefully he'll be back soon. He's doing better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay, Prabhus, thank you very much. Ishan Prabhu, any last comments, realizations you want to share?
I'm just trying to become a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. We were talking about people going here and there, whatever. Srila Prabhupada explains that all of us are attracted. We're all under the direction of Paramatma, Super Soul. And that we're all directed by Paramatma. Our faith and our affection and our attention goes in so many different directions. It's directly because according to the degree of the individual's sincerity to know God, to know Krishna, then Krishna makes, as Paramatma, Krishna makes people go in all different directions
Hmm.
according to their individual sincerity, and this is what's actually happened.
Hmm.
So
Hari Bol Jai.
let us just see like that at this, and try to understand who is Srila Prabhupada, and understand that he is our connection to Krishna,
Hari
and
Bol.
hang very close in that way,
God.
and consider ourselves very fortunate like that.
Hari Bol Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
See everyone next week on Sunday. We'll start the same time. Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Prabhu.
hosting, Ramachandra Prabhu.
Haribol. Take care.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.